The sun had barely risen when the coughing started again, sharp, painful, the kind that cuts through the quiet like breaking glass. Aaron Vega froze in the middle of tying his worn boots, listening with fear twisting his chest. His daughter, 7-year-old Mara, lay curled on their threadbare couch, her small body trembling under a blanket that had long lost its fluff. Her breaths were shallow again. Too shallow. And Aaron, a single dad and a janitor at Crestwood Elementary, had no choice but to leave her alone for the day. The school needed him. The rent needed paying. The world didn't care how much he worried. But he cared. He cared enough to break a man inside. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the good still left in the world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Reports to help stories like this reach more hearts. Every morning felt like a gamble, hoping Mara wouldn't get worse while he worked. Aaron hated leaving her, but her medication had run out last week, and his late paycheck meant they had been stretching soup and tea like lifelines. The free clinic was backed up for months. There were moments Aaron would stand over her, brushing hair from her damp forehead, wishing life would give them even the smallest break. Aaron's home was a tiny, aging rental on the outskirts of town, a place where sunlight fought its way through dusty curtains, and where silence always felt too heavy. But he tried to make it warm. He read to Mara every night, taught her silly games to distract her from the pain, and carried her outside on better days to show her birds in the trees. She always smiled. Even when she shouldn't have had the strength to. Mara had the kind of gentle eyes that made strangers soften, and the kind of bravery that made Aaron's heart ache. She never complained about her sickness. She never asked for toys or outings or treats like other kids. She only ever asked, "Daddy, will you stay a little longer?" And every time, he wanted to. But the world did not pause for love. That morning, when he finished his shift at the school after hours of mopping hallways and cleaning classrooms, he hurried to the nurse's office. Nurse Carla had promised to check on some donated supplies for him. She tried her best. Everyone knew Aaron's situation, but even her hands were tied. All she could give him was a single bottle of vitamins and an apologetic look. He thanked her anyway, because Aaron had long ago decided to see kindness even in small places. Before leaving, he stopped by a bench near the playground, sitting down with the exhaustion of a man who had been tired for too long. The schoolyard buzzed with laughter and energy, a reminder of everything Mara couldn't do. And as he looked at the parents picking up their children, he felt that familiar sting of helplessness. He wished just once that someone would look at him, really look, and see a father drowning quietly. What he didn't know, someone already had. At the far end of the playground, a girl sat on the step of the slide, clutching her backpack to her chest. She had pale cheeks, nervous eyes, and a trembling jaw. Her name was Adeline Caraway, though Aaron didn't know it yet. She looked lost, emotionally lost, the way Mara sometimes looked when her breathing frightened her. Aaron noticed her because he always noticed children who looked alone. He approached slowly, making sure not to startle her. She didn't say a word when he asked if she was all right. Her lips pressed together, her eyes brimming. Aaron knelt beside her, feeling that old instinct to help. He pulled a tissue from his pocket. She didn't take it. He set it gently beside her instead. Sometimes, silence was the language kids needed. And then she whispered something he didn't expect. "I don't want to go home." She said it with such raw honesty that Aaron felt it like a punch. He sat down next to her, not touching, just close enough to show she wasn't alone. After a moment, he reached into his work bag and pulled out a little notebook. On one page, he had drawn doodles for Mara the night before: smiling suns, wobbly cats, a crooked rainbow. He held it out to Adeline. She blinked slowly, then reached for it as though it were a lifeline. For 10 whole minutes, she drew quietly while he watched over her. No pressure. No questions. Just safety. When her driver arrived, an unfamiliar man in a suit who looked frustrated, she returned the notebook reluctantly and whispered, "Thank you." Aaron simply nodded. Any time. He thought that moment would fade like all the invisible good deeds he had left scattered in the world. But the universe had been listening more closely than he knew. The next days were a whirlwind of worry as Mara's condition wavered. Some mornings she seemed a bit stronger, other mornings she could barely stand. Aaron tried everything, warming her soups, using steam from the bathroom to help her breathing, reading her stories until his own voice broke. By the fourth day, exhaustion had carved itself into his bones. Yet something unexpected began happening at the school. Every day, Adeline Caraway sought him out. She never said much, but she always sat near him for a moment, as though his presence steadied her. Sometimes she gifted him little crayon drawings. Sometimes she asked if she could help him pick up scraps from the hallway. And sometimes she simply sat in silence, breathing easier just knowing someone was near who cared enough to notice her. Aaron didn't pry into her life. He didn't know who her family was, why her driver always seemed impatient, or why Adeline clung to moments of peace like they were rare treasures. All he knew was that she was hurting in ways she didn't yet have words for. And maybe, just maybe, helping her filled a void in his own heart. After nearly a week of this quiet friendship, Aaron walked home under the bright afternoon sun, feeling the heat pressing against his tired shoulders.